On the 22nd of July 2011, Oslo was struck by a very powerful car bomb net that went just next to the Prime Minister's office. 8 people were killed immediately and hundreds were injured. Panic struck Norwegians trying to figure out why they have been attacked, why they have been added to the long list of cities that have been attacked by Islamic jihadists. They discovered many reasons. They found that Norway had been contributing troops to the NATO war effect. They found that the Muslim preacher community of Norway had not been properly integrated into the society. They also found that just a week before, a Muslim preacher had been indicted for his incitement. And while the country was still trying to make sense of this fog of war, there was another attack that happened a couple hours of later in a school summer camp, where more than 69 people were shot dead, including personal friends of prime ministers and some other members of the royal family. And of course, names started popping up. This was had to be a jihadist attack. Responsibilities, some Al Qaeda. The name started popping up. But ironically, it was none of that. This entire terror attack was the handiwork of one man, whose name was Anders Breivik, and he was a Norwegian, and he hated Muslims, and he was actually protesting against the multiculturalist policies of the Norwegian government. My second story is about this man who goes by the name of Salim Durrani. He has many names. He operated in the valley for about 10 years. He used to move in and out, but the fences and the boundaries were never the problem for him. He has a price on his head when he operated in the valley. And he's been known to be personally responsible for the death of close to 3 to 4 dozen young men. He is also a devout Muslim, prays 5 times a day. He has his AK-47 next to him like a true warrior. Each time he prays, wherever he sleeps, he never sleeps in the same place for twice, not for two nights in a row. Salim Durrani is Michael Smith from the Indian Army. This is a picture of him when he was major, serving in the valley. Between him, his father, and his grandfather, 3 generations, they have contributed 8 uniformed services officers into the Indian Armed Forces. And between them, they hold 6 gallantry awards and 2 commendation cards. The young lad that you see sitting on the left is Salim's son, who is now planning to join the Indian Military Academy and continue the family tradition for the 4th generation of service to this country. Now, when I told you these stories, your mind instantly left to a conclusion that was wrong. You thought of Salim Durrani when I began as a terrorist, AK-47, Valley, and your mind jumps to a conclusion which was wrong. We do that very often. We take the information that is coming to our brains and we stereotype it. And why do we do that? Do we do it because we are parochial people? We are bad people? Turns out we do it only because we are just people. And our brains is still evolving over millions of years of evolution. And it's incapable of dealing with all these inputs that come to us. Hundreds of inputs come to us every second. So our mind filters them out into some sort of pattern and absorb those patterns and jumps to a judgment. Let me give that to a few examples. For instance, until I say these sentences to you, you are unaware of the feeling of your legs on your seat, or the touch of your arm on your armrest, or the faint hum of air conditioner in this auditorium. But the moment I said these sentences, Those pieces of information were out there in your brain, jumps into your mind, and you could actually sense it. But until then, those sensations were coming in and were being filtered out. And that's the way our mind works at times. It just takes 2 to 3 pieces of data and quickly jumps to a conclusion. Let's solve that with another simple example. Try and solve this math puzzle. Suppose there is a racket and a ball which together cost 110 rupees. A racket and a ball together cost 110 rupees. The racket costs 100 rupees more than the ball. The racket costs 100 rupees more than the ball. What is the price of the ball? Now all of us who got it as 10 just witnessed a way in which our mind takes information and jumps to the wrong conclusion. The answer is 5. The price of the ball is 5. The price of the racket is 105. That is why the racket is 100 rupees more than the ball. But you heard 110, 100 and you jumped to the wrong conclusion that the price of the ball was probably 10. Now the second feature of our stereotypical thinking, we will usually think of the worst case scenarios. That is why Salim Durrani is a terrorist and not amongst thousands of Muslims, officers and soldiers who serve Indian armed forces. And why do we do that? Why do we always gravitate toward the worst case scenarios? Now the answer for that is we also human evolution of the brain. Now suppose we went back to history as they were evolving. There were these two tribes, tribe 1 and tribe 2. Tribe 1 consisted of brave, fearless warriors, and they would see a mammoth and they say, I will take on this mammoth by myself. They come to a chasm, they say I run and jump to the chasm and flap my wings. They would see a bright fruit and said, bite it into it, forget about the consequences. And tribe 2 said, they would saw a mammoth, I cannot take on this mammoth, my son need to go and get more people. They come to a chasm, they decided to walk all the way down and they saw this bright fruit but say, you know what, I will stick to my boring banana. Whose descendant do you think we are, tribe 1 or tribe 2? Of course tribe 2. Tribe 1 didn't have descendant, they died. So two elements. We jump to judgment, so judgments are usually worst case scenarios. And the third problem is with this wrong judgment, worst case scenarios, we also change physiologically. Our mind changes the way we perform, we behave, biologically changes. Let me show that with another example. How many of you seen the movie Black? It was a sad movie. How many of you did cry during the movie? Why did you cry? Amitabh Bachchan is making tons of money. Rani Mukherjee is not blind. This is all happening in a screen. None of it is true. But we still crying because our reptilian brain didn't realize the difference between fact and fiction and start physiologically feeling sad, physiologically taking decision in an emotional state of mind. Now, for those of you who didn't see the movie Black or were too much not to cry during the movie, I want you to visualize one more example. I want you to visualize that I am asking you to open your mouth. Don't open your mouth, just visualize. That I am asking you to open your mouth and stick out your tongue. Now your tongue is stuck out. I have got a lemon in my hand and I am squeezing that lemon in the tip of your tongue. And that juice is going down. Why are you salivating? There is no lemon in my hand. There is nothing in my hand. But again, your reptilian brain doesn't know that. When you hear these words lemon, lime, going, you can't stop salivating. Because physiologically, our body changes the way we perform, we behave, we take decisions based on wrong information. Now, salivating on an imaginary lemon may be harmless, but stereotypes can be very, very dangerous. People get lynched by mobs because they believe that they have eaten the wrong type of meat. Communal riots break out based on false information, WhatsApp messages, photoshopped images. Countries go to war because they believe that another country has got weapons of mass destruction. Countries leave alliances that they have been part of for decades because they believe that immigrants are coming and stealing their jobs, which is incorrect information. We start looking at every stranger with suspicion and we think that anything which is different from us has to be dangerous. We start believing that anyone who is not with us is by definition against us. One other founding principle of our country is the core value of tolerance. And tolerance, like wisdom, is the ability to hold two contrarian ideas within the same mind and evaluate each one on merit before coming to a conclusive judgment. Before this talk, I was researching on the way working of the brain on stereotyping, and I found many books. And matter of fact, some of lines I've told from these books, but I was hard pressed to find a book that would tell me how do we deal with this problem. What is the framework that will help us recognize this thread of parochialism and divisiveness? Because if we start believing that anyone who is not with us is against us, then we start creating a world, creating a society in a world where everything is connected to each other, which is extremely divisive. And finally, I found a book. I want to read out a passage for you. The Fundamentals Duty of Citizens of India, Article 51A. It shall be the duty of every citizen to promote harmony and spirit of brotherhood amongst all people of India, transcending religion, linguistic, regional, and sectional diversity. Now, this book, as many of you have guessed, is the Constitution of India. Is that book which is holier than every holy book. Is that book on which every soldier, every politician, every bureaucrat, every citizen of India swears his allegiance. We've been taught to stand up in attention whenever the national flag is unfurled. We teach that to our kids. We have been taught to stand up whenever and being attention whenever the national anthem is played. And we teach that to our kids. I think it's also time for us to sit down and start studying the fundamentals which are being represented by that flag and by national anthem. Because as the saying goes, whenever struggling to look for a new idea, sometimes it's a good idea to read an old book. Jai Hind, bye.